There were a bunch of people. There were a bunch of people who asked to be recorded because of the holiday weekend. They said they wanted to come, but they couldn't, so they want to watch it on YouTube. So we're recording. So welcome. This is the Eat, Paint, Live workshop, and I'll be hosting it today. Charlie gets a break. And this is about how to add figures into either your urban sketches or your plein air painting. So this workshop is not so much about how to draw people. That's a whole different workshop, urban sketching people or painting people. This is about how to add figures into a scene that you're working on. And the reason why I started thinking about this a little while ago is that I like to paint outdoors and I like to paint landscapes. And then since I met Charlie, I've been incorporating a lot more buildings with a lot more confidence. But I realized I really rarely or never put figures into these works, even when I was on vacation, even when there were figures, even if there were crowds in the scene, I would leave them out. I was a vacation sketcher for a while. So the reason why I would leave them out is because I didn't know how to tackle them. I didn't know how to put them in to my sketches or into my watercolor sketches as well. So that's why I started trying to figure out how I could do that. And that's what we're going to share with you today. So figures in watercolor, Sarah's chatted us to say that's just for me. Sorry, Sarah. I'm glad you're starting to feel better. So I'm going to share with you first. I have a PowerPoint. So I'm going to just share with you some of the reasons why you would put figures into your sketches. So can everyone see this slide that says distant figures?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So for me, even though I'm not really a people painter, I find that there's a lot of reasons to put figures into your sketches. One of the biggest reasons, and this is the one that Charlie mentioned to me right off the bat earlier today, that he does it, is to indicate scale, to give a sense of the scale, the proportion of what you're drawing. So if you take a look at the sketch on the left, that could be 3-4 books stacked up on the table. You don't really know what it is, that it's a building or the scale of it until you notice the little figures. So you've got a standing figure here and a standing figure here, and they give you a sense of how big these structures are in relation to the people. So they literally just give you a sense of how big the thing is you're looking at. If you look at the one and that's by Giannini. He calls himself Taller Giannini. And then on the right is Norbert Durantes, who's an urban sketcher that I really like. You can see his distant figures are really just dots almost on the page, because he's got this great view from above, this perspective from above. And he just is adding a sense of how grand it is by adding in these very small figures, especially that tower. I mean, that tower seems even bigger. And, for a lot of us, European architecture is much grander. It's much bigger than what we're used to here in the States and other places around the world. I've traveled a little bit, but our buildings here in the States, they're fairly on the small side. They're not extremely grand. And so when you're traveling, I find it is really helpful, especially when I'm bringing them back to show people, to add a figure in, even if it's just 1 or 2, to really give a sense of the size of the buildings. So scale. Hey, Bonnie, welcome.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome. We just got started. So we're talking about
I had technical difficulties.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. We just started and we're talking about why you would add figures and how they can help your sketches. So adding a sense of scale is one reason. Figures can also help to add mood as well. So that's Sahita's sketch on the left. And the mood here, I think there's also a sense of scale that this little lone figure sitting at the cafe adds. But it also adds a sense of the mood of just repose and relaxation. I don't know about you, but immediately jumps me into that I'm sitting at a cafe in Belgium or somewhere like Prague, and just relaxing and enjoying myself. Whereas to contrast with Hazel Sohn, who is one of the masters of figure sketching, figures and animals in motion. If you guys don't know Hazel Sohn, she's got tons of videos on YouTube and great books as well. Really good books about sketching figures, quick sketching. Anyway, the mood here, I think that you get with the people added is very social, right? This is not some deserted courtyard. This is a very social scene with the people coming and going and groups of people talking to each other in the market. So it also can give you, adding figures can also help to establish a sense of place. So if you look at Uma Kelkar, who is a really amazing urban sketcher and leads a lot of workshops herself, she's been doing some digital work recently. If you look at her digital sketch on the left, I think that what you see is it's a soccer field. But if you took away those few scribbles of the nets and then those folks in uniform, it could be anything at all, right? It's not necessarily a soccer field. It could be just a park, or it could be a forest. It could be anything. But I think immediately those very rough figures and a couple of structures also. Structures can really help because they're symbols. So we're not seeing portraits here. We're barely seeing people. What we're seeing is abstractions of people or symbols that represent figures, that represent people, and sometimes dogs and things like that. So that is helping to establish where we are here. It's what kind of place it is. This is a sketch I did on the right of autumn in Central Park. I'm a New Yorker. I wanted to add the buildings in the background because this is very, very Central Park, to be able to look north and be able to see these buildings from the park. But I also wanted to add the figures in so it didn't just look like a forest or anything at all. I wanted it to appear to be a place where people would sit and relax, whether it's on the edge of the fountain or it's on a bench. Somebody taking a photo over here. And I also added a couple of street signs. Little signs also can help. So sometimes you just need a few symbols. It's not always figures. Sometimes you don't want to put a figure in, but you want a sign of civilization. And there's different ways to add that civilization. So it could be a bicycle leaning against a stop sign, or a park bench, or even a garbage can or something like that can help to add that sense of civilization. It's inhabited. So we got that one. You also have, oops, a mistake. You can have a sense of purpose here. So here on the left, you don't just have figures giving you a sense of inhabitants, but they look clearly like they're hikers or backpackers, some kind of travelers. This is Uma Kelkar again. This is a watercolor sketch. And then on the right, this is, I don't know this person's name. They just go by Marshall Images. And on Instagram, I follow a lot of urban sketchers. What you have here is you clearly have a tourist spot. There's just clearly a bunch of people kind of in a row that are all looking at the same view, which gives this picture a sense of purpose. So I was just curious, before we get started, curious as to who already has some experience or confidence with adding figures into their sketches. I see a no shake. Everybody, that's why you're here, right? Hi, Susan. Welcome. Nice to see you. So what we're going to do today in the time we have is I thought what I want to do is just show you some of the reasons why you might consider adding figures to your sketches. And then what we'll do is I'll show you how I draw these symbols of figures. I'm going to show you 3 different symbols that I use regularly, and we'll practice making them just in a very general sense. So there won't be specific people, they'll just be generic symbols. And you can either use ink, pencil, watercolor, whatever you like to make them. I'll show you with both. And maybe Charlie will jump in too. So the idea is, to draw these symbols and just get comfortable with making them and making them kind of in the right proportion. And then after that, we'll practice making, or we'll try making more specific people. So I have some photographs, some photographs of my own and from friends and things like that, where I'll show those on the screen and we'll practice very quickly capturing those people. And then at the end, what we'll do is we'll practice putting them into an actual scene. So if we have time, which I hope we will, we'll sketch some little scenes and we'll try to include some of the architecture and trees and things like that, as well as the people. Sounds good? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So here are Anne's simple symbols. These are the symbols that I use when I am putting figures into a scene. So I have 3 symbols that I use. I use the carrot, the diamond, and the perfume bottle. So here you'll see these are 3 carrots. Very easy to make, very fluid. We'll make them together in just a minute. I've shown you the carrot from the front. This is kind of an uptight person with his shoulders straight across. Here's a 3/4 view. And then here's the profile. Okay, then I have the diamond. So the carrot is great for Southern California because people don't wear a lot of bulky clothes here. They don't dress fancy. It's very simple. A lot of the time I'll actually make the legs in just a flesh color because people are wearing shorts, their arms will be bare. But just for the sake of this comparison, everybody is just sort of fully clothed. But not a lot of clothing. You can really see a slim profile, a slim shape. Whereas the diamond, I like to use that for when there's more clothing. So if somebody has like a bulky jacket on, or just even more clothes like a sweater, then I feel like it's almost a carrot just bulked out. And it just adds a sense that they have more layers on. So when I'm painting in England, for example, in the winter, or if I go somewhere, New York in the fall, you might have a combination of carrots and diamonds. Or perhaps you just like this better. So not only does it look like there's more clothes on, but also you can imagine the arms akimbo a little bit more. So somebody walking like with their hands at their sides or hands in their pockets, but sort of sticking out. So that diamond shape gives you that effect. Does that make sense? Okay, and then the perfume bottle. Perfume bottle can be, that's what I call it, the perfume bottle, which is really just this sort of half a Tic Tac shape with legs. And I generally utilize this for folks who are sitting. So it just creates sort of a flat surface for their behind to rest on. And then I just sort of add the legs on afterwards. And again, I have sort of a frontal. This guy's squatty. He ended up being a little squatty. I would normally fix that. And then you have a 3/4 view. A lot of people hold up their phones like this to take pictures. And then I did more of a profile. Okay. So basically, I built my figures based on these different symbols. I just, it's a starting point. And it depends how abstracted or how specific I want the gestures to be. And I just take it from there. So just very quickly before we start painting, I'll share my screen and I'll show you kind of how I get those figures started. Just a little bit on proportions, right? Because you want to get that right. So the human figure, men are generally about 8 heads tall, and with their hips being about halfway. So most beginners, they make the figures too small, too squatty, and the heads are too big. And then it ends up being distracting. It's actually better to make the head smaller because your brain will sort of fill in the gaps of like maybe there's some sunlight there or something bouncing off his head. If you look here, you'll see none of these shapes are perfect. Here too, none of them are really perfect, but they wouldn't be distracting in a scenario at all because they're approximately the correct proportion. Even this arm, which is a little bit funny and long, it's not too distracting. It just looks maybe a little bit stylized. And so rather than trying to, again, do a portrait or draw that person, we're just stylizing it already from the start so that if things end up looking a little bit wonky, it's okay. The most important thing is to have the proportion to be approximately correct. So all people are going to be about 8-ish heads high. Women are a little bit shorter, 7 to 7.5. Now everybody's different, right? So you may have someone who's much extremely shorter, but again, we're not trying to necessarily depict specific people. So even if there is someone who's super short in a scene that you're trying to capture in a piazza, you may choose to just composite a few people and not to draw that person as that short because it might look incorrect in your picture. Okay, so you have half of the body falls at about the hips. So that looks like this from the front, just looks like this from the side, and it looks like this from the profile. So the hips are kind of all in the same place. Children, which are great to put into pictures. Children are generally like 4 or 5 heads high, and their heads are a little bit bigger. Okay. And then just something else to think about, which we'll practice later, is the scale. So you're going to draw these 8 heads, this 8-headed figure, you're going to draw them at a different size depending on what scale you want to represent, right? So these figures here within this space tell a different story than these figures here and these figures here, right?
Right.
So keep in mind that those 8 heads should be relative to the space that you're sketching. Okay, so let's see. Thank you for writing that. It is Soane, S-O-A-N-E maybe. Yeah, I always used to say Sloan, but her name is actually Hazel Soane. Okay, so here's some people sketched. So I'm going to just grab some paper and I'm going to sketch them first in ink. If you guys want to sketch along with me, I say no pencil. Commit, just commit. You can always squiggle over it if you feel like it didn't work out the first time. Okay, so I always start with the shoulders. I really generally do not start with the head. So I'm going to start with shoulders, which slope. They generally don't go straight across and they generally don't go like this. I've never seen a real human being who looks like this. So they're more like this. Then you've got a body. Remember, it's about halfway. And then you have a carrot. And then you have a head. And that's really it. From there, I can detail it in any way that I want to. I'm just showing you a standing figure. This figure is probably walking straight towards me or standing. So quite often when the figure is walking, I'll just draw this other figure here. What you'll have is you'll have like one leg appears to be coming towards you straight, and then the other is kind of behind it like this because their knee is up and they're in motion. Okay, and again, if you were to differentiate a line for clothing, the hips are here, but generally we have our shirts either tucked in at our waist or a jacket that's slightly over. Okay, maybe this guy has his hands in his pocket, he may have a scarf. Don't worry about drawing feet. It is really very rare that you need to put feet in. A foot coming towards you looks like this flat on anyway. And so if you add that there, it looks kind of weird and it's hard to get the size right. It's better to just sort of let it fade into the ground. And if you're going to put a shadow in there, which is helpful, otherwise your figures can look like they're floating. If you're going to put a shadow in, then that foot would just blend into the shadow. Okay. So just remember the proportion is about 8. If it ends up being a little bit elongated, it just looks like you stylized it. If you make the head too small, you can always make it a little bit bigger. We don't draw the neck generally at all because usually when people are walking, their necks are not up and out unless they're craning to look at something. And generally people tuck their heads a little bit. If you want to make it seem like there is a neck, what you can do, and Hazel Sohn says to do this, is to just leave a space. And actually a bunch of artists say to do it like that. Leave a space. Don't
The other
draw,
small,
don't draw neck.
if I could add in a tiny note, Anne, is that the thing that really helps once you've actually cracked either the carrot or the diamond or the perfume bottle is a little shadow underneath. Just a tiny scribble underneath locates them on the ground. Otherwise, they appear to be floating. So it does make a huge difference to any figures that you sort of sketch, particularly if they're distant figures, is just a tiny mark underneath that grounds them onto the ground.
I agree. You have to know where your light source is coming from. Otherwise, and just something to keep in mind, because otherwise your shadows on the ground, on the people, on the building, they might not be coherent. But Charlie's absolutely right. You don't want ghosts in your picture. So here we've cracked the carrot. So, and then we'll go to paint because I'll show you I have a bit of a particular way of doing it. So now I'll show you my diamond. So I just sort of bulk it out as I'm coming down, and then the legs come straight down. And then a little head. Okay. If you like, you can always, when you're sketching, you can always do this. Hands in pockets, one hand in pocket even. It's just a bit of a fatter carrot, right? So you could have like one hand in the pocket there. Maybe there's a walking stick over here. People still use walking sticks quite a bit, not in the US so much, but in other places I do see them. So this is the diamond. Here's a diamond from the side. Don't worry about personalizing them. We'll do that in a little bit, but there's lots of different things you can do to personalize. You can add a scarf, a hat, a child, walking a dog, different color clothes and so forth. Okay. So, and then let's talk about the perfume bottle. So you can do a perfume bottle as a very stylized figure in your scene. So Charlie, you are probably quite familiar with the perfume bottle from architectural drawing. Maybe it looks like this, maybe it looks like this. But I've seen a lot of hotel renderings that have people in their scenes, and they're people, they're just inhabiting the hotel.
Exactly.
They just look like that. Sorry, this guys. So here they are in a queue. You'll notice in a queue.
Another
Go ahead.
thing to bear in mind is if you're drawing lots and lots of figures, that keep the heads, no matter what the size of the person is,
right,
keep the heads all dangling on the same line, so that all your heads are at the same height.
And they're all at the horizon. They have to all be somewhere near the horizon as well. So that's what I'm illustrating here. So Charlie and I are really mentally syncing today. So they don't all have to be exactly the same because people are different heights slightly. However, unless you're looking from overhead, and I think I can show you an example from overhead, but unless you're looking from overhead, Charlie's right. The heads will all be on the same, approximately same line, and that would be the horizon line. So the exception to that would be if you're overhead. So this is looking down. The heads do not need to all be on the same line because you're looking down, and so they don't have to hit the horizon line. Okay, so just to give you, we have a couple of images where we're going to be sketching from above. Okay, so how do I don't really generally use this figure so much except for when they're sitting. So when they're sitting, it's really just the top half of their body, and then maybe there's an arm, and then I draw some legs, Maybe they're crossed, maybe they're not. And it's really that simple. So it can be a carrot shaped sitting as well. It doesn't have to have that roundedness, but generally it makes people look like they're a bit more relaxed, I think, versus when you're walking and you're usually more hunchy. So that's why I like to think of the perfume bottle, but you certainly could do something here if somebody's a little bit more uptight sitting down, but I think that this one works better. Don't know about you guys. So here's our 3 again. So yeah, generally I'm not working in pen and ink. It's quite rare that I do. Generally I'm working in watercolor. So we'll practice these. I'll show you how I work these figures out in watercolor. And if you guys want to follow along, that would be wonderful. Does anybody have any questions so far? No. Give it a second because I know people have to unmute themselves. So it doesn't matter what color you use right now, although I did have a really good question recently about how do you know what color to use when you're adding figures into your painting. So I'm just I'm doing the carrot now, and I'm just sort of pulling that color down. Sorry, there was a hair or something there. Just pulling that color down and then adding a little head. Okay, then I let it dry for just a second. You can blow on it. Usually out when I'm out and about, I don't have a lot of time. If I'm doing a more fully finished painting, that would be a different story, but you can add in, drop in a different color to change the color. So quite often people are wearing blue jeans, depends on the setting, but tourist setting, for example, lots of blue jeans. If you want to depict short sleeves and shorts, change the color while you're at it. It's a little bit easier. So you can change it to sort of a neutral tone or a reddish orange. And work in the middle tone in there. So do people have red legs? They don't. And generally they do not. But it doesn't matter. What you want to do is use a construct that a lot of artists use, which is to do a reddish orange. Generally when people are backlit, when there's bright sunlight, their heads will appear to be like a dark red or an orange. I don't really like this body shape, so I can kind of fiddle with it a little bit. Yeah. I'm just drawing from imagination, so sometimes it's harder to get something realistic, but that's okay. And then you can always add that little bit of orange in here, or even a little neck on the shirt. You know, you can add that kind of thing in, or even just a little hand in the pocket. You can add those in once your color has dried a little bit. So it'll bleed a little bit, which is nice because it blurs. Again, in the distance, you don't want like a lot of detail. You just want a blur because you can't really see what it is, number one, unless you have a superhuman sight, which I don't. And then number two, you just don't want to distract because those figures generally aren't your main story that you're telling. If they were, you wouldn't be adding them this way. Okay. So again, the idea is just a symbol of a figure. And with the carrot, you're just pulling it down. We're just making that shape. We're not making any specifics. Maybe he's a little short. I don't know. You can go ahead and do a second figure next to that person. You see how I don't start with the head. I really generally do not start there because there's nowhere to go once you start there. And you can stylize it as much as you want. Eileen McCullough, who you guys know, she's one of my favorite watercolor artists here in Southern California. does a flat head. So these are her distant figures. I'll try to approximate them. They look like this. That's an Eileen McCullough figure. I don't know a single person who wears a cardboard box out here in SoCal or has a flat head. However, it's very quirky and charming, and it completely works because she uses flat brushes. She uses a flat brush for almost, I would say 90% of her paintings. So why wouldn't her people look like this, you know? And you know they're people, you know, not just are they generic people, you know who they are. You know when they're surfers, you know when they're shoppers, like you just know. So it doesn't matter. Our brains kind of fill in the difference on that quirkiness. You can make a cane. You can start personalizing them. You can always add a bag. A lot of the time people are carrying bags around, especially when they're shopping in the city or they're tourists. You want to make people seem friendlier, just connect two people together with one hand. So if I'll do where he's sort of reaching out here. Okay. So it's probably a little bit too late that I did that, but when you have pairs of people or triples, it looks a lot friendlier. When you have a solo person, it can look a bit like a lonely scene. And if you want to make a lonely scene, that's great. But if you have a bunch of just singles in a scene, it can look a bit stalkery. So try to remember to like throw in a couple of pairs. Okay, can always make the head a little bit bigger. It's a lot harder to make it smaller. And again, remember, you can differentiate color by dropping in. I like to work loose and direct like this. If you prefer to be a little bit more precise, wait till it dries a little bit more, or just do your colors in sections. I prefer the look of this more free look down here. And just drop a little hand in there. Okay, so now I'm starting to make diamonds. So it's basically the same thing. I'm just starting with shoulders. Remember to slope them and then just bulk them out a little bit. Bulk out the carrot. The legs don't get a whole lot fatter. The legs stay about the same. And you could change the slope of the shoulder, change the position of the head. If you have the head sort of halfway into the coat like this, it really gives a sense of somebody hunching with the cold. So if you're doing a cold scene, a winter scene or something like that. There we go. She decided to make the body purple. So just the biggest mistake is that you might make the figure too squat. So just stretch it out. Just maybe make it longer than you think you should. We'll do another diamond. I want to do like a guy who seems to be really be in a hurry, lurching forward. Okay, so far we've just been using really any old color and then adding a bit of red or orange to the flesh. I'll show you later how to do white when you want to do white outfits. Like for example, if you were doing a soccer team and you want to really get in a striped shirt or something, or if you're painting a scene where people wear a lot of white t-shirts, I mean, that happens quite often. When you have a light-ish background, a light or a medium background, you can put in any color figures. If your background is darker, you have just two choices. You either have to put in a very dark figure, as I did with like here with these guys, or you have to go in the negative. You have to put your figures in the negative. So I'll show you guys how to do that in a little bit. But it doesn't necessarily matter what color they are. If you want them to really blend, just use sort of similar colors to what your painting is. If you want them to really pop, like you want it to really be a little bit more about the people, maybe it's a colorful zone, maybe it's like an amusement park or a party or something, then choose brighter colors, especially in contrast to your background. But your colors should still make sense with the rest of your picture. Okay, so now we'll do a perfume bottle. I'll just draw a little line. Maybe they're sitting on a little bench or something. So I'm really just creating that little shape here and then stretching out the legs, maybe stretch out an arm. So none of these are anatomically correct. They don't have to be. When you're looking at a photo, for example, if you're looking at a photo, then you obviously can try to get a little bit more of the actual gestures that you're seeing in front of you. But most often when I'm doing this, I'm not looking at a photo. I am out and about and I'm painting what I see in a piazza. I'm painting on the beach. I do this all the time on a beach. I'll show you this one, which I did recently in Huntington Beach. I saw like this just bunch of umbrellas together. And I go to the lagoon all the time here, the Colorado Lagoon, and I do this. So I just wanted to get that bunch of umbrellas, but I wanted a few people there. They were all moving, like they weren't sitting. And people are constantly in motion. So you have to just sort of grab what you can and composite them. I mean, they came out a little wonky. This guy's legs are so skinny, but I just wanted to capture the feel of the scene and I feel like I got it. So sometimes it's a little bit hectic. So this scene, which we did in the last workshop, we just had, I think, 4 minutes or 5 minutes. So I wanted to capture the architecture and then get some of the people moving around. So the people obviously aren't very anatomically correct. That's okay. That's not what I was going for. I just wanted to have the sense that there were a lot of people in this square that were visiting this landmark. Okay. But I go to, I go to the beach all the time and I do this. I go to the beach, I go to the pier, I go to the lagoon, and I just practice people. And a lot of the time it's a composite. So it'll be like part of a gesture of one person and part of a gesture of another person. So I actually have a video that we're gonna watch where we can try to capture people in motion, because that's how it really is in real life. You can maybe try to find a quieter spot. If you find a quieter spot, generally you'll have people sitting more, but it's very hard to find people who are standing still. Standing still is very rare. Maybe a parade or something. And then you can put some balloons in, which is kind of fun. So, okay, so everybody kind of got those basic shapes down?
I had a question about the perfume bottle and the seated people. Like the, I'm not sure, I guess I feel maybe I'll just need to practice, but it would be nice to see more of the actual, how you do those,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, we'll take a look at some pictures of people who are seated.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what I do is I'm creating this shape with sloped shoulders on a line. And then I'm just adding legs below the line. And then sometimes I add arms on the line or above the line.
So it depends on if you're facing them head on or you're viewing them from the side or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because
So.
head on, generally it just looks like this, but this guy's a little short. He should be a little bit taller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from the side, usually, so the shoulders are just sloping a little bit more.
Okay.
If somebody's walking, their shoulders might be, rather than having sort of this symmetrical diamond, one side will be a little bit longer than the other. Same here, like this side's a bit longer. And then from the side, it's really more like the tip of a pencil.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll do some practice on them. That's a good question. Any other questions? Let's see. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Go down here. Oop. Thinks I'm trying to do something else. Oh, here are just some examples where I've sketched some standing. And here I didn't even color them in. I just colored in the background. We've got some people walking. Oh, something I should mention. So when you've got people walking, they can be walking towards you or away from you. If you have a busy scene, it's nice to have people walking in both directions. So when they're coming towards you, you can indicate a bit of a collar, for example, or maybe hair. When they're walking away from you, if you make their heads brown or black instead of red, then it will indicate the back of a head with hair on it. Sorry, Charlie. And you can have like the seam of a coat, for example, the seam of a coat rather than a V-neck. So that can help. Also, if you have a little doggy, they can be facing forward. You'll see their head versus just seeing their hindquarters. So different ways of showing people walking to you, walking away from you, walking along. This one has no sense of perspective, and that's okay. I've got a little group, family group over here. Couples walk close together, and then solo people on their own. The groups, you can sometimes just make them in a big blob and then add their heads. That's kind of fun. And you can see I'm always adding a bit of shadow so that they seem like they're not floating in the sky. I've also got a group in the waves. I would say these are more perfume bottles. So when you're in bright sunlight, you can use more pastel-y colors because people seem washed out. Things seem washed out, right? So you can really move more to pastels and purples. Okay, so how about we practice a little bit? If you were in my last class, some of these are images you've already practiced. So I expect you to have a leg up on everybody else. So the idea is just to work pretty quickly, right? So we're only gonna have a minute or so for each of these. I mean, a minute is too much even. So, but we'll start with a minute. And so I'll set the stopwatch and go right ahead. I think I would use a carrot on this guy. You can draw the ground in if it helps you. What you'll kind of see with the most people is that we have our bellies slumped forward, even when we don't know that they do, they do. See the shadow just stretching out just a little bit. So 5 more seconds. We're almost there. That's a minute. Goes quick, doesn't it? But all you really need is just a little. I'll hold mine up. Anybody want to hold theirs up? You just need a little bit, and then take the paint that ended up on the bottom and you sort of just pull it out and you got a little shadow there. Nice, Charlie.
This is fun. It's really good.
Yeah,
Very useful.
really good practice. So we'll do a little more practice. We've got, here's a group. So, you know, if you feel like you could grab all of that in a minute, then go for it. But otherwise, just see if you can get those figures. You can include the surfboards or not, but these will give a sense of purpose, right? What's actually happening here. So again, I feel like the carrot is a good shape for this one, but I'll let you guys decide. You do see how all their heads are aligning, right? This one's a little harder because you have to separate their legs out. Don't worry about them being perfect. They're not going to be anyway, and they don't need to be. I just realized I have no idea what a surfboard looks like when you paint it. I painted it like a bomb. Here, there's a couple little feet sticking out. That might be helpful. Usually I would say don't do the feet, but I kind of like them here. Okay, 5 more seconds. You guys need another 5 seconds?
Yeah.
I heard a tut. I heard a tut tut.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you another 5 seconds, but you've got to get a little bit of that reflection shadows on their feet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Charlie, how'd you do?
Small, but small is quick.
Anyone
don't know.
want to hold theirs up? Yeah, very nice. I'll do some spotlighting. Oh, Charlie, hold it up again. I'm gonna spotlight you. Go ahead, put it up there.
Oh,
Everybody who holds them up, I will add a spotlight. You don't have to share. Chris, you want to hold yours up again? Let's see. Oh, those are great. I like how you varied the transparencies on those, Chris. That looks really nice.
yeah.
Oh, Shannon, I'm coming to you too. Thank you. Oh, those
I'm
are
not
lovely,
seeing the
Shannon.
spotlighting.
Sorry?
I didn't see Chris. Did you spotlight her?
Yep. Can you see everyone spotlighted?
Not yet. I saw you. I saw
Okay, you
You.
have to change your view. Change your view, maybe to gallery
I'm
view
on.
or speaker.
Okay, I'm on a phone. Okay,
Okay. Yeah,
not used to a phone.
it's probably because I have everybody.
Got it.
there.
Got it now.
Okay. Chris, could you hold yours up again? And Shannon, I'm sorry. We'll show Sarah and the group.
Thanks.
Yeah, very nice.
Hmm.
I like that sepia color. That's really cool. Yeah, good job. So it takes a little bit of practice, and the more you practice, the better you get at these things. So Charlie, you want to tell everybody what you told me earlier?
What did I tell you earlier? Oops.
Charlie said, I'm
What?
not very good at drawing people in
I'm
my
not.
pictures. And I said, well, how much have you practiced?
I avoid it. I avoid them.
So yeah,
But as I say, sometimes you just have to put them in because you know, you need a bit of life in the drawing.
you
Or
need life or you need scale. Yeah, you need something, maybe
Exactly.
even mood. The more confident you get, I think, then you find more reasons to put them in. So.
Yeah.
All right, I just put my tip jar in the chat. If you, at the end of this, if you enjoy it, please feel free to tip me. We do these for free.
The weird thing is, of course, with painting figures, more than even drawing figures, is that so long as you get their eye lines right and they're roughly in proportion, then it really doesn't matter too much what the shapes are, so long as you sort of just get the spirit of it, rather than exactly,
That's the idea.
because
the
they're
spirit-
not
Yeah.
equal shapes.
No, they're just symbols. They're
Yep.
just abstract representation. Like here, none of these are actually people. I mean, they don't have hips, most of them. They don't have arms, quite a few of them. None of them have feet, really. I mean, but
They
nobody,
haven't got any beating hearts.
we all know what they are. No, right?
Yeah.
And they're quirky and fun. So, okay, I'm going to give you guys a couple of choices and then tell me, do you want to start with this beach scene here or would you like to start here? How about we do this one? I'll choose. We'll do those.
Okay.
Yep. So you got people coming, you've got people going. This is, I think, would be a typical scene in Greece. So how about we take a minute and a half or so, try to get in a representation of those little figures. Now you might want to have a little bit of peach or red for the flesh tones. Give everybody another second. Sorry, I started it probably too soon. Now, for the flesh tone, there is no flesh tone that you can really buy in any really reputable watercolor or paint. You have to make it. So I generally make mine with red and yellow, sometimes orange. I like that this one guy has a backpack on. That's great.
Yeah, it helps, doesn't it?
It does. And if you're really working quickly to get a scene in, what you can do is do all of the colored parts, do that all, and then do all the flesh. So just get like all of the t-shirts in and, you know, and then get all the heads in after. It's like, it certainly can be helpful. A lot of the time people are just moving so quickly. So there's a guy sitting on the side, by the way. So that could be a little perfume bottle.
Quite useful, actually.
What's tricky about that is he's small compared to them. I mean, the ones in the foreground.
Yes.
So you have to think of scale, I guess. Kind of messed up on that.
Just try to approximate the scale. Yeah, it gets easier over time. Plus, you worry a little bit less about it over time. Just want to make that. I mean, that's a beautiful scene, right?
Right.
Maybe you're capturing it because you stayed at the hotel or you like the colors.
Is that Marbella?
Sorry?
Is that Marbella?
Looks like Mykonos.
Oh, is
I
it?
think it is.
Yeah.
Mykonos.
Street scenes.
Yes.
Blue, yeah.
Mykonos, yeah.
One of my friends from England just went to Mykonos, so I think that's where.
Oh, it's beautiful there. You know, April is like, the end of April is the best time to go. It's not hot yet.
Ooh. Well, I think, you know, maybe you're capturing that because you stayed there, or maybe you really like, I think we're on 2 minutes already, so I should probably stop, but maybe you really like that bougainvillea, but you want to put some people in there. So there you go. So a lot of the time, my rough stuff just looks like that. That's all it is, because I don't have time. And maybe when I go home later, maybe, I mean, I always think to myself, when I get home later, I'm going to paint this, but I don't always have time to paint everything that I want to paint when I get home. Anyone want to hold theirs up? They're welcome to. But the idea is I've got one guy who's bigger, probably not the right person. Another person who's smaller, somebody sitting down there, just kind of fading into the distance. I'm going to come and add you guys, so keep holding yours up. It's great. Oh, I love those little browns and yellows. Very nice. Oh, and those people holding hands look lovely. Very nice. Deb, I'm coming to you.
Very small.
Very nice, Deb. Oh, that's great. You even got the flowers in there. Yeah, so sometimes that's all you want, all you need. Now, I could, and quite often I will go back and I'll grab a pen and I do my ink second. When I'm doing these things, I will often, because I want to stay loose. And if I start with the ink, I'm not loose. So I might go back in and add a little bit of definition using ink. So I'm just doing, I don't know what right now, but I'll always do it afterwards.
Oh,
So
that's good. I'm glad to hear that because I like to do that too.
Yeah, I just feel like I get too tight and I start ending up
Yeah.
coloring in, filling in the blanks. I mean, I might go back in and add a little more punches of color once I've got some loose ink in, but I do like to get
That's
that ink in, and then I don't do it everywhere. I just do it in a few places. So I want
That's
it
really
to
nice.
complement and contrast. I don't want to just overlap it all, you know?
And in case you want to go over it again with watercolor, once you've done the pen, make sure you use waterproof ink. Because
Exactly.
otherwise, Well,
Right.
sometimes you get happy accidents with
I was going to
with
say I have a couple favorites where I was told the ink was bulletproof and waterproof and it wasn't, and I actually
Yeah.
really liked them. So because of the way they bled, and I can think of two in particular times that this happened, and so yeah, as long as you're okay with that. I mean, sometimes it adds to the mood, right, Charlie? That moodiness. That
well, it
either
does.
blurry
I
or
had a recent disaster, spent hours working something out for a very complicated geometric floor, and I wasn't using a waterproof pen, and I put a wash over the top of it, and the whole thing just bled. It looked terrible.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, so it's still fresh in your mind. But when I'm just doing these little loose sketches, like a lot of the time, and I know a lot of artists who do this, they add ink into wet and they do it on purpose. And
yeah.
and recently I've been playing around a lot with Caran d'Ache watercolor pastels, and I'll add them on top of a wet watercolor wash, and I'm really having fun with that. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll show you guys that sometime. Don't know where it is.
Well, I
Not
learned
right
my
now.
lesson. I'm using a dip pen, an Indian ink.
Yeah, I love
or
it. I love my dip pen. Okay, so here's a video. So let's watch this once and then I'll play it again.
Oh,
So here's a scene where you've got people who are standing and staring at something. So they're not moving so much, right? But the beginning part of it, the people walking, is a lot more common. So a lot of the time, if you want to capture people, sorry, I think that's the end of that. You want to capture people who aren't moving so fast. You can find people who are staring up at something, staring at a wall, staring at a building. The challenge was that with that is that often you're behind them, and so you're getting a lot of backs. So if that's the case, what you can do is you can try to move yourself, situate yourself sort of to their side, and then you can kind of get a row of profiles, which can be quite an interesting view. Or if some way you can get yourself up higher them, like on the steps of a building, and then you're looking down and you can capture fronts and backs. But usually when I'm out and about, this is the kind of thing that I'm trying to sketch. It's really difficult. That's how fast people actually move. And so you're really compositing people. You're just trying to capture maybe one or two or three and then get the rest from a mix of
perfume
each
bottle.
other. Yeah, like maybe you've got the pants of one person and the head of another person. So we don't have to draw this one. I just wanted to share this with you guys of how much of a challenge it really is and why it's just not possible to do portraits of people when you're doing urban sketching like that. You actually have to ask them to sit and stay still. Okay, so how about this one? Here's one where we could try to capture as many representations. Do you guys want to do like 2 minutes on this one? 3 minutes? Okay.
I think I'll need 3 to get the scene because the people are so little.
Yeah, they're so small, but you don't have to draw the scene. You can. Alexa thinks I'm talking to her again. So what you can do is you can get all the people and then check in a scene afterwards. Alexa, stop. Sorry, guys. You could always check in the color afterwards. So let me see if I have one where I've done that. Yeah, I did that here in this one, the one I showed you guys first. So I put in all the people and then I put in the scene at the end.
Okay.
So yeah, up to you, but okay, let's give it a go. We got a lot of perfume bottles. A lot of perfume bottles in the water. Because you only see half of them. And this is an interesting view. So obviously you're looking from above. So your figures don't all need to be on the same sight line.
Really tricky.
The idea here is that you're capturing, you know, this busy, fun day at the beach, right? So you have a lot more bare legs. Moms with tops on and kids just with bottoms on, that kind of thing. Don't forget your shadows though.
Hmm.
And remember, there's a trick if you want to go kind of quickly. Do a few bodies and then add in the heads and legs. Do it like that. You also get to do some sun hats and things like that at the beach. And if you're brave, you can try some umbrellas.
Mhm.
Just practice, so just try to do, as many as you can. They're really small, so you can't really get very detailed at all. What I like at the beach is you often have people who are standing with their legs akimbo. It's kind of fun. They're like spread out in the waves kind of thing. When you have people walking, one of the things I forgot to mention is that you often the one leg is, you have to make it shorter than the other. Another 30 seconds, okay? Just get in as many as you can. Five, six. Okay, that's it.
That's it. That's tough.
Okay, so
That's
Tough one.
now,
Yeah.
now that
Mhm.
we're done, now that you've stopped trying those, if you want now, you can add in your building line or whatever else you want to add in. It's kind of an interesting scene, right? Where there's all these buildings, whether they're hotels or clubs. We got a tree line. And then clearly you've got the beach beyond that fencing. But you can imagine you've gone to the beach with some friends or family, and you just are charmed by the scene, and you want to get the scene in, and your family's like, we're leaving now.
Mhm.
Come on, we're going. I mean, that happens all the time.
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah, and so you just want to get in that little bit. You're like, I just want to remember this. And something about the quick sketch also, what it gives you, I'll hold mine up and then we'll give everybody another second here, but the quick sketch, it does give you that impression when you look back about it was so fleeting, If you have a fully finished sketch of the day, it might not give you that impression of your fleeting memory that you had there, whether it was just, an hour at the beach on a beautiful day, or just that ephemeral feeling sometimes that you get of a lovely day well spent, So sometimes a quick sketch helps you to get that impression. Anybody want to hold theirs up? They're welcome to, and they're ready.
Yep, just a second. I just want to put in a bit of
I think I want
building
to put in a bit of sky, which I didn't have a chance to. So I'll just
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Sky.
check in a bit of sky. Just a little.
And I'm so impressed. Can you really spotlight some of these? They're beautiful.
Yes, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna spotlight everyone who holds theirs up. There's Charlie's. Look at those. You're so lovely. Chris, I'm coming to you. Keep yours up. And the other Chris. Oh, wow. Chris Canty, yours is so different. I love it. Nice bright colors, Chris Ladway.
Oh,
Yep. So, yep, that's good. So it's all about the practice, right? And just keep doing it and don't, as Charlie says, don't worry so much about getting it right. Just try to get it. Don't try to get it right. And
Yep, I wish I took my own advice.
right, and nobody has to see them. That's the thing. Like, these are for me. These are for me to remember that I was there. I have a painting in my bathroom that I did with ocean water in Mallorca, since you mentioned it, Charlie. I painted with water from the ocean and a little watercolor kit. And it was before I started seriously painting watercolors. I was a vacation watercolorist. And I brought my little kit and a piece of paper and I rode a bicycle. So I remember this day so vividly. I'm sure I remember it more vividly because I made that painting with the ocean water. So it is by no means, it looks like a child did it. And it is one of my favorite memories, and I have it hanging in the bathroom. I look at it every day. And it reminds me of that day I was brave enough to take a bicycle 45 minutes by myself to the ocean. I saw two naked Germans smoking cigars with snorkeling masks on. And I had a wonderful day. I think I bought a seashell. I don't have the seashell anymore, but I have that painting and I remember that day. And I don't care what anybody else thinks of it, you know. I think you remember things so much more emotionally. I won't say more clearly because quite often it's not. It's tainted by your memory, by your emotion. And so it's not necessarily more clearly, but you have these emotional feelings that are attached when you draw something rather than where you take a photo. So yeah, where is this picture? I don't know. It was just a screen grab I got off of, I don't know where it is. I'm sorry. Feel like it could be Miami though. All right, so let's see. What else have I gotten for you here? I want to show you guys how to use negative painting. So
goody.
sometimes you're painting a dark background and you want to add lighter figures in on a darker background. And other times you're doing a lot of white clothing, for example, white t-shirts. I mean, the only way to do that in watercolor is quickly is to reserve the white and just paint around it. You could use a masking fluid, but generally I don't have time for that. So I just use negative painting. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that. And then we can practice one. So let me stop the share here. Sorry for all the toggling back and forth. Okay, so the way that I do it is, and I generally don't use pencil, but if it helps you to start, you could use pencil. Let me fix that. So I'll take my color, and so let's say I've painted the scene, but I've left a little bit of room for the figures. So I'm not necessarily always just painting a figure with a random background, but if there's a scene, I don't know, a boardwalk or something, and then I need to add a figure in, I take my brush and I take the same color that would be in that background. And I do start with the head in this case. So I just hold my brush upside down. I find it to be easier. So now I've had plenty of practice. I'm not going to paint a balloon head. You know, I'm going to paint a little oval that's kind of halfway set into my carrot. And I'm painting the shoulders now. Remember, it's not ET. We're not going like this. so tempting to paint that, right? But that's not, that's an extraterrestrial. That is not a human. So I'm going to then start moving. I might need to change color depending on what the background is. So if it's a background on a boardwalk and there happens to be a change, maybe it's a change to brown or to green, I have to start putting that in. But I'm still painting my shape. And I'm just, now I can move, now I can switch and I can kind of fill this in here. And I can fill it into whatever I need to, because I'm sure that there's a scene back here that I'm painting. Okay, then you just let that dry a little bit. If you wanted the elbow peeking out a little bit, I think I made it a little high here, but I'm just doing it out of my imagination. But you could add in a little bit of that same color, that blue and the green over here. And then when that dries, then that's when I would take my flesh color. And again, on a sunny day, my flesh color is going to be pretty red. Start looking at photos and you'll see that backlit. And that's where you can put a little white in there, leave a little white, and that would be like a highlight. There are some artists who do that really well. They leave that little bit of white. Hazel Stone does that a lot. And that's where you could put in the shirt sleeves. If you wanted this person to be wearing shorts, you know, men generally wear longer shorts, so just keep that in mind. But that's where you can, and short sleeves, that's when you can add those in. And then all of a sudden, I've got a soccer figure, you know, shaping up. I don't know, what does soccer figures' uniforms look like? Maybe they've got,
Pretty close.
what are they? Stripey?
You're pretty close.
Okay. Well, maybe they're not a soccer figure. Maybe it's just a golf dude. I don't know. But anyway, there's one. There's a golf dude. This is a young woman I did. She's strutting around. And then this is a family. It was two guys and a child. I don't think I made that kid's head big enough. He looks just like a miniature person. But that's okay. Again, not the main story. So if you guys want to practice it with me, you just turn your brush upside down. It does help to have a pointy brush like this. This is one of my favorite brushes to bring. Sorry, I'm just trying to not hit the computer. And go around your head shape. So I'll do a diamond now. Make it a bit bulkier. Now I can start switching. Just want to avoid having that outline. So that means you need to get that color in pretty quickly. Then you can start, you know, working your way down. And again, if you need to change color for the background, you can do that. Came out a little short. You can go back in and add the shadow later too. Still want a shadow on people, but it doesn't need to be much, just a hint of a shadow. If you had a very specific shadow to a very stylized person, that would look weird anyway. So, and then just, again, wait for that to dry. So maybe in this case, this bulkier person is not wearing a white shirt, but maybe it's just something lighter against the background. Could be a ski outfit or something, I don't know. And perhaps it's only the top half that is lighter, but Whatever it is, you can go in and fill it in. I recommend waiting a little bit longer unless you like that sort of messy look. Or you can just leave everybody in white, which is okay too. You can see on these, I left a little bit of white, and that was for drying time, but it gives you, these little white bits give you a real nice illusion of light bouncing, don't they? You really feel that light shining on them, the sunlight. So it's nice to do that for a couple of reasons. How'd you guys do with your upside down work? Anybody have success on that? So? Somebody did a thumbs down. Okay. Charlie, let's see yours.
You got it.
Oh, those are nice, Charlie.
Oh,
Very dapper. Those are definitely British people. I don't know. My guy looks like he's from SoCal. Some artists who do distant figures really well, if you want to look them up. Alejandro Castaneda does it really well. Tim Wilmot is masterful. He does a lot of marina scenes, people walking along a marina and that kind of thing. He's British. Do you know him, Charlie? He's really great.
He's a little bit uptight, I find, in his painting, but he's very good. There's no question about it.
He can be, but not all of them. But yeah, Tim Wilmot is great.
The guy I would recommend for everything, almost watercolor, but particularly with adding in just distant figures, is Gary Tucker.
Yeah,
who I think is absolutely brilliant. And a lot of videos on YouTube.
I'm putting a bunch of names here for you in the chat. Mark Tower Holmes is amazing. Mark Tower Holmes, he's also urban sketcher. He's got a few accounts. He does 100 days, 100 people, or no, sorry, 1 week, 100 people. So that's his challenge. There's a hashtag, 1 week, 100 people. And they have to be real people in motion, not from photos. It's a very interesting challenge if you're ever interested in doing that.
This guy's taken it sort of to the next level. Alex Kilhertz, he's really, I mean, really exceptional.
Yep, those are really good. So there's so many good ones. If you just look up a hashtag like urban sketching with figures or, you know, things like that, then you're gonna see how other people do it and how they really incorporate it into their works. So for example, Hazel Sohn, she did that one in the souk or in the market somewhere, Moroccan or something like that. So she does where she incorporates figures into her pictures, but she often just sketches people with very little background scenes. And it's very interesting how she does it, but it doesn't help you necessarily learn how to put your figures into the scenes. But looking at people like Uma or Tim Wilmot, that'll help you figure out, okay, so how like thick should my paint be when I put a person into a scene like this with this kind of a background? You know, that kind of thing can be super helpful, which we don't have tons of time to teach here. So I've got a bunch of other ones where we have a few more minutes and we could draw. You guys have a favorite? You want to tackle a busy scene again? What you got there, Charlie?
That's the Alex Kilhertz page.
Oh, very nice.
So there again, a lot of carrots and a lot of, but quite a few square ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
Quite nice, aren't they?
It's the same general shape, the same construct, but then adding in more specifics. You know, whether it's the slant of the shoulder, an arm, a hand in the pocket, a purse, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Was that done with paint or was that done with ink?
They're done with a brush pen, but the ones that I just held up are done with a brush pen.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those soft Japanese brush pens, which are very, very nice, I must say.
That's cool.
Very nice. Yeah. Okay, so do you guys have a preference? I'll give a choice. We've got 1, 2, or 3.
I think I'd like to try that one. That would be,
Okay, let's try this one. Let's take a little longer. Let's take like a good 5 minutes. So generous, huh?
We'll get started.
It's nice if you can get a little bit of that perspective in there too. But I think this is a good one when you can see, so the people sitting down, their heads are at approximately the same point. The people standing up, all of their heads are at that horizon line. See that horizon line in the background? A little bit hard to see it, but it's there. And here's your chance to give a shot to a bicycle and a park bench and a lamppost, even, if you would like.
Yep.
You also can give a shot to negative, give it a try to do the negative painting of this guy on the bicycle.
And you've got seated figures, you've got everything.
Yeah, this is a good one. And you also have faces, but you have backs of heads too.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about faces.
I encourage you guys to try using some negative painting on that bicycle guy.
all right, that's tough. Yeah, trying.
Yeah. But you got to try. Got to try or you'll never know. Is that your lovely, lovely bird song, Charlie?
Me? No.
Somebody has beautiful birds.
Oh yeah, I've got a chime in the background and a bird feeder nearby with finches on it.
Oh, that's you. That's beautiful, Shannon.
I never played a mistake.
Hope everybody has some nice plans to get out this weekend. I work on Sundays, Saturdays, and Sundays, but I'm going to take the Aqualink tomorrow.
You're gonna do what tomorrow? What did you say?
The
Aqualink?
Aqualink here in Long Beach.
What
they-
is that?
It's the little water taxi that takes you like to Shoreline Village and the Queen Mary. They've reinstated
Wow.
it.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to it. It's
Where do you
$5.
catch it?
You catch it like either at Shoreline Village or over at the aquarium, for example.
That's
And it
cool.
costs $5, and it can be a 45-minute ride if you like, if you go everywhere on it.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get your shadows here. There's some nice shadows.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
I don't see anyone walking a dog, but it would be a nice thing to add anyway.
You don't see anyone what? Walking a dog?
Dog, no, but I mean, I think that that could be just a nice quirky touch of artistic license.
That is difficult. But interesting.
Charlie, are you trying to paint the whole thing?
No, I'm doing probably more than I should, really. It's stupid, but hey, yes,
It's tough, yeah.
but even just to sort of just to get a sense of it, not really to think.
Even that can be art. Yeah. Your chimes are going crazy.
Yeah, getting windy.
What's nice is that little spire in the background. There's obviously a church back there. Well, I think we have maybe a minute or so left. But one thing I forgot to mention was that when I do the shadows, I add a little more water to them. So my shadows are always slightly waterier than the people themselves. Just a little lighter. All right, what do you guys say?
Boy.
Wow. Yeah. Tricky. Interesting.
Uh,
Tricky.
Sarah, you're very welcome. Sarah says, thanks for hosting these and especially taping them. Who here are going to the Cotswolds with us? So excited.
I wish I could.
I know. Well, Sarah, I think you're the only one in the group other than Charlie and myself who's coming, although I know some of you guys wanted to come. We actually do have one room still available because we were able to rearrange a few things. So if there's anybody who last minute wants to come, we have the tickets. We bought an extra ticket and we have an extra room. So if you want to come, you can still. There's time to get good tickets still. But otherwise, our next retreat is in Ojai in September. And maybe you'll be able to join us there. I'm going to try to put some workshops in-person workshops in for July and August, just the same day workshops. Like we did Duffy Boat, for example. That was a good one. Some of you guys came on that.
Really
so
lovely.
I'm going to try to do those on my side of the world. Maybe Charlie will be able to fit some in. Maybe you could do a garden sketching tour, Charlie.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to say, let's finish. Okay. Anyone in the middle of it one?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to say stop.
Oh no, it's taking the picture away. I've got a
Okay,
cute
so
little
our final
silver ring.
share here.
Right. Oh, that's cool. That is
Ooh.
very
Very messy, very light. I'll go back and add a little more
That is
detail.
so cool.
okay.
Wow.
I'm really
Mhm.
curious to see everybody else's. Let's see. Oh, really?
Not
Good,
done.
Charlie.
Charlie, that's
That's
great.
excellent.
Oh, that's
How many
great.
you guys are?
Wow.
Shannon.
That
You gotta hold it up, please.
bicyclist was kind of nice.
It was hard. Oh yeah, that bicyclist came out great.
That's
Look at that. Very nice.
I have
Oh,
to do in more details, but
that's beautiful, Chris.
Wow,
I like
Chris.
it. I like how
Fabulous.
loose it is. Yeah, nice work, everyone.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. So in June, we're going to be hard pressed to do one of these, I think. Unfortunately, just because we're going to be so busy with the retreat itself. And then Charlie's got a book to get in on deadline.
I have, yes.
And it's this
I'm-
summer. So we encourage you guys to keep sketching on your own, keep painting, keep drawing on your own, and get some practice in June. Get out because it's going to be beautiful wherever you are, and get some practice in. And then hopefully you can join us, whether it's in person or in a workshop, and you could join us in July. If anybody has any thoughts of subjects you would like us to cover, things you want to tackle, go ahead and send those to us because we don't have anything in mind for July. And
No,
we're looking for suggestions.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
That was incredibly useful, Anne, I have to say, for me.
thank you.
particularly.
Very
Oh,
useful.
I'm glad you
Thank
thought
you.
so.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I got to go to work now,
Oh,
fortunately.
darn.
Gotta
You
go
go
to
as
the
well.
furniture shop, sell some furniture. So
Hey,
thank you. Oh, thanks, Chris. Yeah, we will definitely do a blog on the Cotswolds. We'll have plenty to share. So we'll be excited about that in July. Yeah, maybe we can do some Cotswolds architecture and stuff like that in July. Maybe that could be our workshop.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Okay, awesome.
Great. Lovely to see you all.
Have a safe holiday weekend. Enjoy it and see you guys soon.
okay.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.